Hey there, it's Josie. Welcome to the Yoga Local podcast. I'm recording this from our studio here in Wellingborough, but you may also be listening to this, so welcome. I want to talk to you about a question that's come up for me this week, and that is, what's it going to take? What's it going to take to do what needs to be done? So, one of the things that I've learned is that our beliefs can become so twisted and so tied up that we're really often afraid of the very thing that we need to do. Okay, so whether it's, I don't know, taking that yoga class, right? We know we need to do it, but there's some fear holding us back. We're afraid to slow down because maybe we get accused of being lazy, or we associate slowing down with being lazy. We're afraid to share our skills, maybe because we believe that maybe there's someone else that's better than us, we're not enough, and it creeps in that maybe everyone's going to think you're living a lie. So it still throws up for me quite regularly just how much we may be missing out because of that voice in the head that says, don't go there, right? The mind is so powerful, right? But it can work in both ways. The mind, when it says no, is really powerful. And what is it going to take to change our minds? What is it going to take? What needs to be done? Now, the yoga tradition has its teachings that will help us to plot a course. The yoga tradition teaches us that in order to master our mind, we need to master our energy. When we master our energy, we master our state, how we're showing up. And then when we can master that, our mind will follow. Our mind will follow our state. Trouble is, we don't always lean into that, right? We lean into our imbalances, we lead into our old belief patterns, we lead ourselves back into repetitive patterns that maybe feel safe, right? Because they're familiar, but they're actually feeding the imbalance, moving us backwards, not moving us forward in our growth at all, but they feel safe because they feel familiar. So what we need to do first is find our stability, re-find our stability, regroup. And that's where the first aspect of moon practice begins. We stabilize the mind. We get deep into our capacity to bring ourselves into a state of groundedness, of calmness, of stillness, which is facilitated mostly through specific postures, shapes, moving ourselves into the fold position, shaping us into this energy that's called Apana Vayu, which brings our mind into the same energy current, the grounding current, the stabilizing current. Why stability? Well, because we can't direct our energy from an unstable platform, not in any kind of coherent way, not in any way that's going to move us forward. So the first port of call has always got to be stability. Arguably, many of us think it's flexibility that yoga's all about. It's really not. It's about stability and bringing you back to an aligned state. So why do we need to be in an aligned state? Well, because that's when we will start to really see our blind spots. We will really start to witness that all these fears, all these things that we're afraid of, all the things that our mind is saying no to, may be rooted in something that is conditioned, that is an obstacle to our growth. And having that witnessing awareness is really super powerful, because then we can start to actually choose our next actions from this stable state, from this sense of groundedness, and not allow our triggered responses to start to rule our life and to keep us in like this perpetual state of fear, and never really leaning in to what is possible for us, never really leaning in to what we know it is we need to do. As I said, what's it going to take? What's it going to take to do what needs to be done? And arguably, yoga will give us this opportunity to answer this question. And speaking of which, it actually did this week. I got to explore this teaching very close up, very personal. So what you might not know about me is that, as I say, in a former life, I was a journalist, and I crossed the dark side late on in my career to join the corporate communication world, where I believe now that souls go to die, because that's what happened to me, or that's what I believe happened to me. And so I quit overnight, and that was 10 years ago. And by that time, I hadn't done what I needed to do. I'd ignored all the signal. I'd ignored all the cues that my body was feeding back, that this wasn't right, that I needed to make changes. And so what did it take to shift me out of that? Well, it took it's really hard to say. It took a mental health issue. I was depressed, basically. I was a mess. I was depressed, anxious, burnt out, to the point which, my stress response put the emergency brakes on. I wasn't able to function, essentially. And my entire life as I knew it changed. I had to change. So unfortunately, that's what it took. And but ever since, I've been working towards achieving the skills, the tools, the techniques to help me move away from that state. Okay, and that's where my whole yoga journey kind of began. I was basically trying to find my own pathway out. So my life basically couldn't be more different than it was then, until a couple of days ago. So here's the story. I've been accepted and very grateful, very blessed to have been chosen amongst a very hand-selected group of entrepreneurs who are taking part in what's called the NatWest Business Accelerator Program. So this is basically a real handhold through the business world. You get mentoring, coaching, you get wraparound support with thought leadership events, workshops, all the things, right? All the kind of support network that you could possibly need to help your business thrive. And so a couple of days ago, I was invited to what's called an ignition event, to meet the other cohort, to meet all the other entrepreneurs, all these amazing people who've got businesses around Milton Keynes, Bedfordshire, Northamptonshire. And there was me rocking up in my floaty yoga pants, and I was back in the corporate world, right? So I was, it was, corporate offices, carpeted tiles, all, new with our badges on, our name badges on, floating around, trying to not be too awkward, introducing ourselves, helping ourselves to coffee and tea, and but what was really interesting, that the building where they were hosting Ignition was just literally a stone's throw away from the corporate offices where I used to work, my old workplace, where I believe my soul went to die. So I was not long, well, it wasn't long before I noticed that my equilibrium was starting to shift. And I literally started to feel my inner stability kind of checking out. And what I now see was happening was that my stress response was kicking in. My systems were putting the emergency brakes on. They were playing this old, outdated fear pattern. And I just started to witness myself falling into some seriously familiar, even though it was a long time ago, some really familiar coping mechanisms. One of them being to kind of like diminish myself, right, in this amazing group of entrepreneurs, and the inner critic comes in, the who am I comes in, imposter syndrome, and the state of alert, is so pronounced that I literally want to get, I really literally couldn't wait to get home. And I was in such a state of overwhelm, and all these feelings and all these old thought patterns and all these fears was suddenly once again getting in the way of what I knew I needed to do. So fortunately, of course, now 10 years on, I've got lots of practices that can help me out of those spaces. So as soon as I got home, it doesn't stop you having the feelings, but you can arrest them so much more skillfully and effectively. We're all human at the end of the day, and things will pop up, things will trigger us, things will put us out of balance, out of alignment, and the key is how quickly, how readily do we fall back into steadiness and get our nervous system back in a state of coherence, right? Because it's in the coherence of our nervous system that we're actually healing and thriving, right? So got home and got straight into a restorative breathwork practice. And I felt better afterwards for sure. But what is even more important, that from that work, you get back into a grounded state and you can start to really self-study, which is something that we're working on in practice this week in class, right? The Svadhyaya aspect of practice, the self-study, the coming home to trying to witness what is actually going on, what is the truth of the situation, what is the reality of the situation. And the truth is, I was able to reflect on the experience and even get some valuable lessons from them. First off was that, yes, my central nervous system is working A-okay. We have this technology, it's built in, we're wired a certain way, and it's there to protect us, right? It's there to protect us from imminent threat, imminent danger, and to help us to move away from threatening situations. However, the problem being in this situation is that this is what it's going to take, right? Being in this environment, I know this is what it's going to take to help my business grow, help this business grow, help me serve more, help me become more, help me get this kind of material out to more people. And I truly want it to become all the things that it can possibly be. And I've done so much, right? Like on my own on my own. Obviously, there's been support. Lots of, family, friends have kind of helped me get to this point. But if it's to reach the next level in anything, if this is my business, but it's also very much a development thing. And if any of us want to move beyond where we currently are, if there is that inner desire to become all that you can be, at some point you've got to make some changes. At some point you've got to face those things that are holding you back and understand when the mind is saying no, and is that no something that's protecting you from a real threat, a real genuine obstacle that you should be paying attention to? Or is it just a pattern, a repeated pattern, a trigger that's kind of playing out and preventing you from leaning into something great, right? Because these people are amazing, right? They are amazing. It's no wonder, it's easy to be intimidated in those environments. It's easy to feel like that you're not worthy to be in those spaces. But hey, I'm there. And if I don't show up, those opportunities will become lost to me. So somehow we've got to figure it out. And somehow we've got to get that stability and that will and that desire on a daily basis to confront those fears from a really tender, loving, compassionate space. And this is honestly what yoga practice is all about. This is what it teaches us to do. It teaches us to face our fears, to do what needs to be done, to witness those obstacles, to feel into the provocation, feel into the resistance, feel into the fear, and then work calmly, sustainably towards what you know is true to you on a soul level, towards what you desire, and slowly become more and more resilient. Slowly start to dissolve some of that patterning that is may have been put up at some point to protect you, but now it's not. Now it's not serving you. Now is not the time to fall back into that pattern. It may feel safe, it may feel comfortable to pull away, to run away, to leg it out of there and go and do something less stressful. But it's all about how you manage that stress and literally coming home. For sure, my practice got me straight back into something a little bit more calm, something a bit more spacious, something that I could really make a conscious choice from, rather than just folding and and handing in my notice again. So yes, day 2, I got my big girl pants back on and I went and I got back in that corporate arena. And I'm not saying that it wasn't still triggering and intimidating, and yes, was my heart racing whenever I had to get up and speak. Did I fully embrace it because of what I'd learned the day before? No, I was still hiding, to be honest. I was still diminishing myself, still trying to figure things out. But this is what it's going to take. This is what it's going to take to get what needs to be done. And I'm going to navigate it in the most awake and aware way that I can. And I'm going to give myself plenty of room to fall and plenty of room to heal and unravel what has become like a very embedded, twisted belief about being in that corporate world, being in that environment of business, the business world. I am a business. This is a business, and for it to do all it can, for it to reach its full potential, I've got to lean into that aspect again, and do what I can at the same time to sustainably grow myself and move into what's possible for me. So this for sure is going to be a journey. I'm with the NatWest Accelerator program for 6 months. I'm really looking forward to getting to know my fellow cohort a little bit better, because I genuinely believe, just like this place, that with a community at your back, with accountability, with like-minded people who have got your back, who are cheering you on, you're going to achieve way more than you could ever do on your own. And that's the same message that I give you guys, right? Together we are stronger. We have an amazing community here. We need to lean on each other for support. Sometimes we'll unravel. Sometimes we won't do what it takes. Sometimes we'll beat ourselves up, or the inner critic will expose itself. But how do we then renegotiate our way back to stability? How do we then use what we're learning and continue to learn, in this beautiful tradition of yoga, on how to be the most capable, most resilient, the most effective, the most consistent, the most capable version of who we are. And that's always going to be a lifelong journey, and hopefully you're inspired to to have that journey with us. And you can do that in a number of ways. You can come and join us at our studio here in Wellingborough if you're local. Join our membership. You get, as part of a complete membership here, you get access to our online community, our online membership app, which has a whole library of classes, of courses, of content, plus all the communities in there. There's chat, there's workshops, live workshops. And this is my way of like creating that support system, creating that mechanism, just like this NatWest Business Accelerator program has created a mechanism for me to thrive, to grow this business and be around people that want the same thing. That's what the app does as well. And I would love to welcome you there and be your cheerleader and help you lean into your greatness through the tools and the technology that is yoga. So if you're interested in that, all the details will be somewhere around this video. And I would be delighted to welcome you soon. Okay, bye for now.